And welcome back into our Bridgeport studios. I'm Dave Carl alongside my co-host for the evening, Ben Eschenbach.
Thank you kindly, Dave. At the quarter pole of the season, now is a good time to take a look back at how we got here for both squads. First up, West Virginia's opening games in which the Mountaineers went 2-0 against teams from the state of Maryland.
Heading in as 4-touchdown underdogs to the country's then second-ranked FBS team, West Virginia held their own, once leading and twice tying the Crimson Tide. Kevin White made some of the most impressive grabs, matching preseason All-American Amari Cooper stride for stride. WVU's Thunder would fade in the second half, however, as Alabama's rushing attack forced 288 yards and 3 scores as the Mountaineers fell 33-23. WVU wasted little time dispatching FCS national runner-up Towson in their first shutout since 2010, 54-0. Clint Trickett did not connect on just 5 of his 40 passes, while tallying 348 yards and 2 scores through the air. All of the Mountaineers scoring came from a different player, including sophomore running back Russell Shells, first with the Old Gold and Blue, and true freshman William Kress seeing his first action as a Mountaineer while forfeiting his red shirt. In last week's matchup at College Park, WVU again led up 37 points to Maryland for the second straight year, but this time it ended with West Virginia on top. Once leading 21-3 and 28-6, shortened drives and special teams miscues let the Terrapins back into the game as UM tied it up with over 9 minutes to play. WVU's defense was accountable for just 3 points in Maryland's final 7 drives. Trickett amassed 511 yards through the air, placing him second to only Geno Smith in the WVU single-game record books. Trickett engineered a final drive with 2:35 left on the game clock, setting up Josh Lambert for his second career game-winning field goal, giving WVU the edge 40-37.
Oklahoma's non-conference schedule has been nowhere near as difficult as the Mountaineers faced. Tonight's game represents the first time the Sooners have left the state of Oklahoma this year. Their only other road game was at Tulsa.
In their first ever meeting with Louisiana Tech, Bob Stoops improved his home opener record to 15-1 with a 48-16 decision over the Bulldogs. The Sooners introduced their 3-headed monster in the backfield with Keith Ford, Alex Ross, and Samaje Perine, each scoring at least 1 touchdown. Week 2 was even more lopsided in favor of the Sooners. OU led up just 1 score as they won by 45 over Tulsa while forcing 4 turnovers, including 3 interceptions. Sterling Shepard climbed the program's record book, setting a career high in single-game receiving yards with 177, placing him 19th overall at OU. The Sooners' closest game yet came against SEC member Tennessee this past Saturday. Once a 6-point spread, Trevor Knight put all doubt aside, throwing for 308 yards and a touchdown while running for another. Big 12 leading scorer Ford was lost in the game, however, leaving Perine and Ross to lead the rushing charge in Morgantown.
Well, we're just getting started on tonight's show. Coming up in a few moments, we'll be joined by Chief Meteorologist Ken Meehan, and I'll have a look at tonight's kickoff forecast. A reminder that Fox National pregame coverage will begin at 6:30 and take you all the way up to 7:30. And then, of course, the game broadcast will kick off at 7:30 right here on WVFX Fox 10. And be sure to join us on 5 News at 11 tonight for a complete recap of WVU in Oklahoma.
And later in the show, we'll introduce you to the newest WVU Sports Hall of Fame class inducted just this afternoon.
But coming up next, my report on the impressive start to the season for WVU senior signal caller Clint Trickett. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our pregame coverage of tonight's Oklahoma-West Virginia game. We are currently a little over an hour away from kickoff when the Mountaineers will face off a second top 5 team in 3 weeks. Looking back to last year's 4-8 campaign along with the Sugar Bowl involving both Alabama and Oklahoma, there was plenty of skepticism shown on the fans' part amongst the Twitter sphere. In a way, it was a preview of what was to come. Well, skeptics beware. Clint Trickett is on board and he is for real. 3 weeks in, and he's already in the Mountaineer record books as well as near the national forefront in several passing categories. So is it too early to ask about the Heisman?
Trickett for Heisman? Is this question that much of a reach when asked about the WVU signal caller whose early rise already has him in the program record books just behind Geno Smith in several categories? An early summer transfer last year, Trickett took the bumps and bruises both mentally and physically throughout the course of 2013. In the middle of a quarterback carousel, Trickett found success in his first start on the year, leading the Mountaineers past then 11th-ranked Oklahoma State while injuring his shoulder in the process. Never at 100% following that game, Trickett's numbers staggered as he finished completing just over 52% of his passes and throwing just as many touchdowns as interceptions with 7. His 2014 success is attributed to his rehab and work ethic during the offseason, and his progression is, quote, night and day now that he has grasped the knowledge and signals of the offense.
It's sometimes he's got multiple options, sometimes he has no options, sometimes he calls a different play altogether. You know, and that's where Clint has definitely matured.
With last fall seemingly out of sight in the rearview mirror, Trickett and the offensive specialists have turned over a new leaf that has the program sitting just beyond the national polls. Trickett has nearly reached his 2013 totals in yards already through just 3 games. He ranks in the top 5 nationally, statistically speaking, in passing yards, completion percentage, completions, and average yards per game. So what is it that has Trickett near the top of the nation? Chemistry, protection, knowledge of the system, or play calls? With so many aspects that factor in, it's hard to just pinpoint one or even a few.
Having more reps together creates chemistry, which is always good, and you want that. But I do think his comfort level with the offense, his confidence with the staff and with the players, and just comfort level being here is obviously better, and so that probably has a factor to do with it too. I mean, there's probably more factors than that, you know. I mean, I don't know if you can pinpoint one.
Honestly, I would think it's a collection of all of them. You know, coach has really been on his game, playing play calls, and it doesn't help when players are making huge plays like Kevin and Mario are, and Dikeel and Squirt, and even all of our running backs. Then not to mention I'm not getting touched back there in the pocket. So having all that around you, there's not much to complain about.
Perhaps the biggest intangible often left out when speaking of a team's success is off-field relationships with fellow teammates. Trickett has built a bond with his specialists and boys in the trenches. His efforts range from simple phone calls with his wideouts to dinners with his O-line for keeping him clean on game days, all of which keeps the motor running to ensure victories are accomplished and at a continuum.
Clint, he definitely won us over. You know, he's awesome. He's always positive. You know, even in negative situations, whether it be practice or the game, you know, he's going to come to you. He's going to approach you. You know, he thinks highly of us. And, you know, getting the job done is something we really want to do for him.
The connection with Clint is great. You know, when he sees stuff that we don't see, I mean, he let us know. We see some stuff that he don't see, we'll talk it over. Like after practice, you know, we call each other on the phone. I mean, he's just there. Everything is just correct right now.
So while Heisman may be a reach at this juncture, the collection of Big 12 Player of the Week, Walter Camp Player of the Week, and Athlon Sports National Player of the Week awards are nice trophy shelf space fillers until the ballots circulate in early November.
Coming up after the break, we will toss it back up to Morgantown where we will check in with Joe, and Chief Meteorologist Ken Meehan will have our kickoff forecast.
And coming up next, a look at some of the more interesting angles for tonight's matchup, so please stick around.
West Virginia's non-conference schedule figures to be one of the toughest in the country. Alabama on a neutral field, Towson at home, Maryland on the road. That's a pair of Power 5 conference teams away from home, while many big-name programs load up with lesser teams at home. And for the second year in a row, WVU opens Big 12 play with Oklahoma, the nation's 4th-ranked team. So that's a pair of top 5 opponents in the first month of the season.
We need these type games, you know, just to, to see where we are. So, I mean, I think it'll be a great experience for us. We don't treat no team different, you know, we treat them the same. So we just got to prepare this week and, go at it and do what we do.
It's a challenge, but I really believe that, the tougher competition you play early on in the season, the better off it sets you for the rest of the season. I'm a real believer in that, and I just want to thank Coach Hogerson for scheduling those games like that, starting off with some really tough opponents. I feel like it's really going to help us in the long run.
We wouldn't want it any other way. We like going against teams like that, and we like being the underdog when nobody believes in us. It's going to be a great matchup this weekend. We're just going to have to go out there and compete.
One more segment on our preview show tonight. We'll each give you your final thoughts on tonight's contest.
And we'll also take you inside the Caperton practice facility where the latest class of the WVU Sports Hall of Fame was just introduced about an hour ago. We'll be back here in just a few moments.